Strictly speaking, Michael isn't Mr. Hastings. He's a peer of the realm. You are an Earl yourself, aren't you?
Yes.
What?
Loudon.
Earl
of Loudon. I came over here in 1960 and I inherited, at that stage I was Lord Morclin because my mother was still alive.
Yeah.
She had the title. Then last October she died. I was in England at the time and she died.
Yeah.
And I inherited her title. And then my oldest son inherited mine.
So if you're an English lord, what are you doing over here?
I love it over here. I came over here when I was 17, 1960, and I just love it over here. I married here, I have 5 children, 5 grandchildren, and a wonderful life.
But what Michael hadn't twigged was that as King of the United Kingdom, he'd also have the remnants of an empire, including Australia.
They're looking for a new Governor-General at the moment.
It's quite serious in a way, though, isn't it?
Well, it is, really. It depends, well, it depends how seriously you take it. You see, I believe that Australia should be a republic. I'm not a mad monarchist.
So in the referendum, how did you vote?
For a republic.
So you'd have been voting against yourself, had you
well,
been...
yeah, I suppose I would have done if I... Well, I might have voted different.
Two of Michael's daughters also live in Jerilderie. Princess Rebecca and Princess Mandy, with the young Prince Riley, took a bit more convincing than their father had done. All the way down to here, to your grandmother, Barbara, which means that when Barbara died, Michael
became King of England.
You're right.
Became the true King of England.
This is the King of England, which means that you two...
Yeah.
Oh, Prince, what was your mum's name?
Nolly.
No, oh, what a pity that she's not alive now. So no,
Very. She would have been
was
just...
Queen Boleyn. That would have been so lovely.
I won't even say what she would have said.
Because she can't say it on the television.
Yeah, no, she wasn't really into it much at all, was she, Kate?
Up until that moment, my quest had been a bit of a game. But meeting Michael, I really liked the sheer normality of his life and was actually rather touched by his bluff republicanism. I began seriously to think about not only what he'd lost, but also what he'd gained by not being King of Britain. Not Balmoral, not Sandringham, not Windsor, but Jerilderie in Australia, home to Britain's real monarch. Because if you think this is the royal family, think again. According to my calculations, this should be King Michael I, and his family include Simon the alternative Prince of Wales, Marcus, Lisa, Princes Jet, Zac, Caleb and Riley, not forgetting little Princess Isabella. Queen Elizabeth II's day is planned minute by minute, including a piper who plays at 9 o'clock after the royal breakfast. She spends her time going through the royal rituals, pressing the flesh with ambassadors or ageing celebrities, anyone who needs the boost of pomp and circumstance. Michael's day begins at 7:30, when he sets out on a half-hour drive to work. He works at the Australian Rice Research Institute. It's an enormous farm where Michael and 2 mates are engaged on an ongoing quest to find a sort of rice suitable for the parched landscape to feed Australia and Southeast Asia.
Yeah, I don't know what fertiliser we got left, Mike, but
Oh, so
we'll have a look through these bins. Do you want to start chucking them in the Bedford?
All right.
And Matt and I might try and work out what's in the other bins.
One of the interesting things about our Plantagenet king is that he started off as a standard British public school boy with a title. But something in his character transformed him into a regular Aussie bloke who'd vote to get rid of the monarchy. Like Prince Harry, Michael came to Australia to do some jackarooing in a sort of gap year. But his temporary stay became permanent.
After a couple of other jobs, I joined a company called Dennis Lascelles. They were a stock and station agency. A stock and station agency over here is a combination of kind of buying and selling properties and sheep and cattle and all that kind of thing. And they sent me to Jerilderie, and that's how I started in Jerilderie, and that was in 1966, and I've been there ever since.
It's a very small town. What's in it for you?
The casualness, the friendship, the lifestyle, that's the bit I like.
After only a couple of days in the bush, I could see what attracted our real king to the tough but uncomplicated Australian lifestyle. I think I'd pick if you did that to me. But as soon as you start getting into the swing, there's always someone happy to point out that you're still a pom.
"40 years on, I'm still a pom." Or that pommy bastard, you know, one or the other. Yeah. Oh, yes, well, that's typical Australian, mate. Oh, yes. You know, I don't think I'll ever become a local.
It doesn't rankle?
No, not at all. Not at all.
I spent more time with Michael at work and off duty. He showed me the sights of Jerilderie. To be frank, I'm a city person. I'd have gone mad here after more than a week. But at the same time, I envied him. Compared with the dysfunctional Windsors, our Plantagenet monarch lives right at the heart of a close-knit family and community. Whatever the gags and put-downs, it seeed to me that he'd made a life for himself out here that was far better than any that he could have had as King of Britain.
That's how I'm friggin' working. At least I turn up. More than you friggin' do half the time. My wife had red hair. She was fairly fiery. I think I was not quite 21 when I met Noel, and I was 26 when we got married. She probably thought, "Oh, can I really marry a pommy?"
What do you think Nolene, an all-Australian girl, would have said if she'd known that she was really the Queen of England?
I think she would have probably said, "Get me another stubby, Michael. I think I'm going to need it."
If the Queen abdicated, if she said, "I've had enough of it," would you go back?
Probably not. Probably not.
And I couldn't blame him. But I still wondered what Britain would have been like if our alternative history had happened. We wouldn't have had Henry VIII, so Britain might still be a Catholic country like Ireland. And Britain was only formed because James VI of Scotland became James I of England as well. So there'd be an independent Scotland with its own king. And what about our current royals? Well, we've never had the House of Hanover either, so maybe, just maybe, somewhere in Germany today, a very ordinary and elderly lady who may or may not be called Elizabeth goes to buy a few slices of bratwurst.
Guten Tag.
200 Gramm Wurst, bitte.
Ja. Oh.
200 Gramm. Dankeschön.
Danke. Danke. Wiedersehen.
I've got the answer to the question I was asking myself. I now know who should be ruling Britain in another reality. Except, of course, in real life, things are just as they are. King Michael's far too happy down under to think about storming across the seas to occupy Britain and seize Buckingham Palace. So, if that's the case, what was the purpose of the whole exercise? Well, for me, I really understand something now about the nature of history itself. It's fragile, it's accidental. For instance, this is Ashby de la Zouch Castle. It's the epitome of the kind of power that the Hastings had when they were at the height of their dominance. It's strong, it's big, it's confident. Whereas Over there is the little house where Michael's mother lived for most of her life. It's unassuming, it's modest, it's normal, just like Michael himself, a million miles away from all the trappings of monarchy. Which reminds me of the medieval notion of the Wheel of Fortune, where some people rise up while others are cast down below. And that makes me think of the whole career path of the Plantagenet family. What would have happened if people had cottoned on to the fact that Edward was a bastard much earlier, or if Henry Hastings' horse had come in first, not second? We tend to think nowadays of the monarchy as such a solid institution, whereas in fact wealth and privilege and power and status just hang by a thread. There's no such thing as the divine right of kings.